Welcome everyone. Last session of TechEd. So you must be the hardcore people. I think so, because this is maybe a hardcore session. Level 400. I'm Johan Delleman. I'm an MVP from Belgium. I'm a Lync server MVP. I'm also a Lync server master and also a trainer. So what I'm going to talk to you about is what my experience is with Lync 2013 deploying at customers, and also like architecting maybe for some smaller customers in comparison to whatever US-based companies are. Because we are Europe, we are not the same as in US. Companies tend to be a little bit smaller, so we run into some issues or we have to think about some stuff twice. So I work for a company, Ordina Belgium, with a system integrator, gold certified for Lync, for Exchange. We do regular projects. Also work with Microsoft Consulting to help on the bigger projects. So I want to start first, because early adoption and migration. Early adoption, what does it mean? Do you know these numbers? 10, 11, 12. Does anyone know what this means? Anyone, any idea? Well, it's a date. I have to say it's a US date, it's not European date. So where's the date? Lync Server 2013 RTM. So a long time ago already. So it was early availability, because people could already download it from TechNet, MSDN, or volume licensing. And actually, general availability was only during the Lync conference. General availability was announced. So there was February 19th. Long time between general availability and RTM. And then we also have to talk about cumulative update. Cumulative update 1 is important for mobility. We enabled mobility, audio and video over IP, 3G, Wi-Fi networks. So more or less 4 months before general availability, and up to now, it's a few months more. So this is my agenda. I'm going to talk about a little bit about clients, because we have to think about clients and some stuff is important there. Certainly architecture, because stuff has changed from 2010 to 2013. I want to make some stuff clear. Deployment. We ran into some issues. There's still an issue. You will see in the demo. Migration. Maybe some stuff you can think about doing migrations for Lync. And then a little bit of troubleshooting. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is clients, obviously. So, and you can interrupt me, because this can be an interactive session. I don't mind. So if you list up all clients for Lync 2013, there are a lot of clients. Because we have Lync 2013, we have Lync Basic. Who knows Lync Basic client? I want to see some hands. So not so much people. So I have another slide explaining what Lync Basic is. Obviously, we have Lync Mobile, Lync 2013 Web App, Lync Phone Edition. So there's no 2010 or 2013. There's only Lync Phone Edition. So it works for both 2010 and 2013. So we still have the Lync 2010 client, still works for Lync 2013. And we have the attendant console. There's no 2013 attendant console, we still use the 2010. 2013, there's no. So Lync Mobile 2010 still works. Office Communicator 2007 or 2 obviously also works. The Web Access, Outlook Web App integration, Web Scheduler VDI plugin. So there are some clients that don't work. The attendee client. 2010 attendee client doesn't work. We're going to use the Lync Web App instead. Live meeting client obviously also doesn't work. Live meeting component has been removed from Lync 2013. It was still in Lync 2010 as backward compatibility. It's removed in 2013. And we also have the communicator scheduling add-in, which doesn't work. So for those who don't know Lync Basic Client is essentially a free client. It's targeted for Lync 2013 on-premise and Office 365 deployments. So if you don't have money to buy Office, for example, you can use this client. However, there are some limitations. For example, advanced call scenarios, they don't work. And also for meetings, not everything works, because you cannot do recording. And for example, we don't have the gallery video view. So the nice 5 videos next to each other, we don't have that in this client. But still, you can use it. It's free. I have a screenshot, for example. We don't have any options in call forwarding available. So this is limited. So maybe also important, for most of my slides, I add information below. I put in some hyperlinks. For blog posts, I do on our community site. So if you want to see more information, and I encourage you to check out our website, because we post regular information on there. So what's important that changed on the client? For example, one big thing is file name. In Lync 2010, it used communicator.exe. Now it has been changed to lync.exe. So what impact does it have? You can run Lync 2010 and 2013 next to each other. But for example, who is doing quality of service in his environment? Only one? It's not so much. Or a few other. So what do you do if you want to configure quality of service? You make a group policy, you say communicator.exe, and you tag it for certain ports you configure. And then you migrate to Lync 2013, or people install Office 2013, and suddenly quality is bad. Yeah, of course, we have to change the name, or we have to add another policy. So we ran into clients, and we forgot the first time we did this, because it's not very obvious. You think everything works, but kind of important here. Also for other things, file path, for example, if you want to do the address book or logging, you want to find the logging information, it's much more difficult. Because the logging path, for example, was users, username, tracing, was very easy. Now we have to go through a very deep path to find those logging files, unfortunately. And again, for registry, also things changed. For example, if you have custom presence states, you have communicator Windows extensions, or you want to do group policies, also these have been changed from communicator to a new stream. So important things to remember. Any questions? All fine? So we also have to think about supported operating systems. So Lync 2013 is supported to run on Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows Server 2008 R2. It's not supported to run on, and it doesn't work, on Vista 2008 and Windows XP. So this is the problem, because people are still running XP, right? So what do? If you're having XP, what do you do? Anyone? Exactly, so you need 2010. The Lync web app. The Lync web app is also not supported on XP for audio and video. That's also an important thing to note. So there is a difference between the attendee client and the Lync web app, because if you have the Lync attendee client, you will not use it for Lync 2013, because you will switch to the web app interface, because it's more natural experience for Lync 2013. So, but there's no problem. It will use just the web interface. Unless you're on XP, then you don't have audio and video. Proxy and exceptions, I really put it in here because we ran into some issues at customers. If you have Internet Explorer and you use proxy servers, don't forget to put in the right exceptions. Who uses this application? The Lync web app, the Lync 8 application from the store. You can run it on Windows 8, but if you run it in combination with your Lync client and you use the application, the app, you run into problems because the app takes over a lot of stuff. Incoming IAMs, it takes it over. It's kind of, I don't really like it because then I have to switch to the Metro interface or the modern interface. Yeah, and a call, it takes the calls as well. And if you click on a link with a telephone number, it dials from that application. So that's kind of annoying. So what's the solution? Remove it. Don't use it if you have a if you have a full PC, use the full Lync client. It's not touch-based, but again, I did find a solution, for example, if you click on the link Join Meeting, it will run this application. I found a solution to switch it to the real Lync client, but I didn't find a solution to click the tel link and boot up the Lync client. Maybe someone else can help me on that. Are you aware that this application has been updated this week? New features. Anonymous join. So in the past, you needed to have Lync credentials on some AD network in order to join a meeting. If you're just a customer with a tablet, Surface tablet, you're not able to join that meeting because you don't have any credentials. So this app has been updated, so that's a good thing. And also some other stuff. I put in the link to my post, so you can check it out. So one other thing that has been changed is the client login process. So we all know Lync 2010 client login. What do we do? SIP internal TLS, TCP, domain.com. So probably we all use this. SIP internal TCP, probably not. SIP TLS when we are remote users from the internet. Then we have some backward compatibility from earlier fallback stuff. So this is 2010. If we look at 2013, we actually first connect to Lync Discover, or we try to connect to Lync Discover internal. So we try this. If it works, we connect this way. If it doesn't work, we check Lync Discover domain.com. Now, this has some impact. And you'll see in the demo what impact this has. So, and of course, if we don't have the first two, or the first two doesn't work, we go the old process. So if we look then how that actually works, so we have a Lync client. It connects to DNS server. So this is an internet-connected client. So we query SIP TLS domain.com. We get a response. We connect to the edge, and we have may or may not have a director, which will fork us to our correct front-end server. But this will always be the flow, so you will only have one entry point if you use this method. So it changes a little bit if you use Lync Discover. Because Lync Discover, we also query DNS, of course, but we point to the reverse proxy. So not to the edge, we point to the reverse proxy. So reverse proxy connects to the front end. It returns an XML file with all the information. So so it depends. Now, if we are hosted on this front-end server in data center 1, or we are hosted in data center 2, we get a different response. So it means we connect directly to the edge closest to us. This is an implication of what Lync Discover is doing. So I'm going to do a little demo on how this actually works. So I'm going to do network tracing. I'm going to start up Fiddler, just to show you what's going on the web services. Maybe one question, do you know Fiddler? Who knows Fiddler? Oh, most of you. So you're aware to do HTTPS troubleshooting? Because you can just enable it in the tools options, and just select decrypt HTTPS traffic. And then what it essentially does, it creates some bogus certificate which you trust. I think it's this one. And then every website you check, it generates a new certificate for you, and then you're able to intercept that HTTPS traffic. So it's very handy. So close everything. Clear, no. I'll flush. Oh no, I lost my connection. No. So I'll flush DNS, and I have to start network monitor. I'm going to filter on DNS. So what I'm going to do is now, this is my SIP domain. I'm going to type in a bogus SIP domain, which does not exist on the internet. So we can see, of course, this is going to fail. So we can see there's first a query to Lync Discover internal. So of course, this fails because we're on the internet. And then we connect to Lync Discover, which also doesn't exist because it's a bogus SIP domain. But then you see the other stuff. We go SIP internal TLS, SIP TLS, SIP, and we do all the other stuff. So if I now do the same with my correct address, yeah, maybe. Yeah. Let me do it again. So if I do this, we see Lync Discover internal that fails. Okay, yeah, I probably also have a cached file, but I can show you in Fiddler what's going on. So this is probably, let me see, where did it start? So this is the first request. So the first request is Lync Discover. And we try to connect it. So this is an HTTP request. It will probably fail. We can see whatever are the XML responses. I'm going to remove, because this is not very clear. Sign out, sign in again. So we're going to try Lync Discover internal, so that fails because it doesn't exist on the internet. Then we do Lync Discover, and that of course works. And we can see whatever in the XML information. So this is really the URL I'm going to connect to, because this is the information my pool has returned to me. So this is the XML information. So I have to connect to the external web services, ls web ext. So that's one of the next queries going to be. So we connect to that web service, and of course we have to authenticate. So we will try a few times. This is also an authentication error. This is the authentication, or we connect to the web ticket. And this is what we get in return from the server. So this is what my server returns to me, sip.ordino.be. So this is my edge server I have to connect to. So at this time, my Lync client knows I have to connect to sip.ordino.be. So potentially this could be another edge server in another region, but that is not the case at this time. So that is the process, what's going on under the hood. In the second part of the demo, I'm going to do an internal test. And you will see the process is similar, but because of the Lync Discover request, the client will show up an unexpected certificate warning. So secondly, I want to talk about architecture. So server sizing. We are in Europe, so usually we don't have 80,000 users, and Microsoft, yeah, they tend to test everything, high number of users. So during preview timeframe, these were the requirements, 8 core, 16 gigs of RAM. At RTM, it essentially doubled, like 12 cores and 32 gigs of RAM, like recommended hardware requirements. That's a lot. If you're a small customer, like 200, 500 people, this is way too much. But there's no guidance how you can size for a small customer. So that's kind of a problem. There is, however, a small tool which allows you to do calculations. So it's called the capacity calculator. Now, it doesn't do a really good job for small customers. I can show you. So this is a tool. So by default, it populates 80,000 users, which is a little bit much. So for example, my customer only has 500 users. Or let me see, 80,000 users, and this tool says all the way at the bottom, they say, what do you need? 12 servers, and you need 20 gigs of memory per server. So this is the guidance. So if I do this for 500 users, 500, a lot of figures will change. We know we only need one server, but still 20 gigs of RAM. Well, based on these scenarios, obviously we can maybe say, okay, we don't want to do enterprise voice, and some stuff will change. For example, if we enable and or disable mobility, where is that? Here. I will say 100% of the users use mobility. Okay, that didn't change much. Well, you see, it doesn't change very much, but still, for a few amount of users, still a lot of memory. So another thing to think about during architecture, Office Web Apps. So Office Web Apps, something new. Who knows Office Web Apps Server? All of you? Okay. So what's the requirement for Office Web Apps Server? When do we need it? So only PowerPoint sharing. So some people tend to think it's for all meetings and all whiteboarding stuff. It's only for PowerPoint. Well, it's good and it's bad because it's a different server. It's a little bit bad. We want to lower the amount of servers, but still it's good because this application, it renders the PowerPoints for all clients in HTML5 format. So it used to be a PowerPoint 97 format, and it was a little bit cumbersome for mobile clients and tablets, and still all features were not present, so we had bad experience. So what is it? It's a separate download. It's not a Lync server. It's an Office server. So you need to download it separately. It's also licensed separately. And what license do you need? Do we need to have a license for every user connecting to that? Excuse me? Didn't catch it. Yeah, true. So essentially, if we want to edit, we need a license. If we use it for Lync, we just use it for viewing, and then it's free. So we don't need a license for every user if you use it for Lync. Still, you can share it between Exchange and SharePoint and Lync. So maybe you need licenses, but then it's irrelevant for Lync. So another thing is, it's a separate server. It cannot be collocated on the same server as the Lync server, for example, or any other Lync server, or SQL server. Why is that? I see also in the forums regularly people posting, oh, I installed it on the front-end server, now my front-end server is broken. Yeah, of course. It's not meant to be installed on the front-end server, because what happens, a Lync essentially adds two websites, an internal one and an external one, and it disables the default one. And what Web Apps does, it integrates with the default one, probably enables it. So it breaks your web services. So don't do that. It's a separate server. Doesn't require so much memory and processors. So it's still, if you are in a virtual environment, it's still fine. So it does integrate with Topology Builder. You can specify it in Topology Builder. So this is the screen. So Office Web App Server, FQDN, and then you have the Discover URL. That's all you have to do. If you publish it, then the server tries to connect to that URL. If the server is not there, it will just say, I cannot connect, and the users will not have their PowerPoint sharing. So another thing is, it does not integrate with Deployment Wizard. So you have to install it separately. It's a separate installer, all that stuff. And it can be shared across the pools. SQL support is a big thing for me, because I have talks with customers all the time, and I always have the same discussion. Maybe you can say the same thing, and then I will be happy. So what is the scenario in Lync 2010? We have a Lync 2010 pool, and we have a clustered server, backend SQL. So when we move to Lync 2013, we have Lync 2013 pool, and we have a primary SQL server and a secondary or a mirrored SQL server. So mirroring is the only supported scenario for SQL. Now, we move from 2 servers to 2 servers, but if we run or we use this scenario, what's going to happen? If you use this scenario, we don't have automatic failover. We still have to do a manual command to fail over the SQL database. That's kind of, we don't want that. So you can add another server, so that's a third SQL server, which is a witness which takes care of changing the SQL database. Well, this already is a little bit hard to explain to customers because SQL is not so cheap. And it gets a little bit worse because every talk I have with customers, they want to do this. Lync 2013 pool and SQL always on. Do you also have this problem with customers? Can I see some hands or not? Not so much. I was hoping more people would do that. Okay, but I have this talk all the time because mirroring has been deprecated and might not exist for a long time, and every customer is doing SQL always on.
The witness SQL can be expressed.
Well, yeah, probably. But still, we have an extra server. Well, no. So that's the problem. So it's not supported, so the official statement is only SQL mirroring is supported. So that's the problem I have with my customers. I always have to explain this. I hope Microsoft will come out with a better statement and maybe support it in a soon future time. So what I wanted to explain this. Yes, I have a slide on that as well. So, a little bit painful. Other stuff, also some other things changed. For example, firewall rules for Edge. We have some additional firewall rules. Maybe not all that important, depending on your usage. But we have an extra port. So, and this port is used for XMPP. So if you want to use XMPP, then you need additional ports, firewall rules. Maybe you don't require them. Then we have 3 additional ports. So what are they used for? No one? Logging, right. So we have a new system, centralized logging. I'm going to try to explain depending on what time I have left. But essentially, it's a logging system which connects to all servers and tries to centralize the logs. And if you want to do that on the Edge server, you need to configure these ports. Load balancers. Who uses load balancers? All of you probably? A lot. Now, in 2010, what did we have for load balancers? Layer 7 load balancers. We needed cookie persistence for mobility. So that was a requirement. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Mobility doesn't work for you. So in 2013, you can go with hardware load balancers layer 4. So why is that? We no longer require cookie-based persistence for external web services. It's managed by the Lync web infrastructure. So Lync makes sure it will redirect to the correct server. And on the next slide, we have some interesting stuff here. So cookie-based affinity requirements are greatly reduced. So you can still use cookie-based persistence. It will not harm your solution or your deployment. But essentially, the third line is very important. If you deploy mobile devices, your hardware load balancers must be able to load balance individual requests within a TCP session. So it means in a session, you will have individual requests going to all your servers. A little bit strange, but I think this is for more balancing all servers. So I think from that angle, it's a good thing. So if you compare whatever we have to configure on 2010, for example, the internal web services and the external ones. For the internal ones, we use source IP, and for the external, cookie-based. For 2013, internally, it's still source IP, but for the external, we set it to none. So no persistence at all. So we make sure we connect to all Lync servers for every request. So essentially, that's what we do. Questions?
Does that mean that in order to, if you have hardware device that doesn't support your third point, you still need to configure cookie-based persistence?
Well, good question. I don't think so, because this is probably the optimized solution. So if you have anything else here, it will still be redirected, probably not being optimized. But I don't think this is an advanced feature. I'm not sure. I'm not a real load balancer specialist, but I suspect this should be something easy. So the only thing I found to explain this a little bit was looking at this, especially the meet URLs, how it works in 2010 compared to 2030. So for example, we have a Lync 2010 director. It can also be a pool. For now, it says director. So what happens, if we get to this URL, it comes to the director, and it knows which front-end server to connect to, because based on this user's conference, it knows where the user is hosted, and it will do a redirect. So the user or the proxy server, wherever it's coming from, needs to connect to that pool directly. So in 2013, director or pool, it is a little bit different. So we connect to the first one. We know, obviously, the home server of that user, but we proxy instead of redirection, of doing redirection. So, and this also works for cross pools. We also do proxying cross pools. I haven't found any more information about the Lync web infra, how it's essentially working in the backend. But this is, I think, a good explanation. We also need to talk about video, because Lync 2013, heavy HD video, also in conferencing. So how do we model the network? Very important, because in Europe, bandwidth is very expensive, certainly in Eastern Europe. In US, it's less a problem, but we have to take care of the network. So if you look at video, what's the default video codec in Lync 2013? H.264 video codec. So we are probably going to use this one in a peer-to-peer scenario, and we have a typical usage and a maximum. So 4 max is the maximum usage of 1080p Full HD video peer-to-peer. That's a lot if you consider a small network connection over a WAN link. So why is there typical and why is there maximum? If we start up a video call, you probably are not going directly full screen. If you don't go full screen, you don't have HD. So if you start with a smaller window, it's probably this resolution and this bandwidth. We still have older clients, 2010 and R2, which use the RT video codec. And essentially, they have a little bit lower requirements because they cannot do full HD. Now, if you look at conferencing, the story changes a little bit. So if you look at video, so main video receive, we have H.264 or RT video, and we can go up to 8 megs per second. That's a lot. So how can we receive 2 times 1080p streams? What's going on? Anyone? We have the active speaker and the previous active speaker, so we receive 2 streams. If we send streams, we can also go up to 8 megs per second. So wait a minute. We are sending. How can we send multiple streams? Why do we have to do that? It's essentially how Lync 2013 versus 2010 works, because 2010 does not support H.264. So, and Lync, the MCU, the conferencing unit, does not transcode from H.264 to RT video. It does only video switching. So what happens is that on the client side, we have to send both an H.264 stream and an RT video stream, only if there are legacy clients connected. So if you have still Lync 2010 clients, you will send RT video as well. Is it clear for everyone? So, but that means we do have a lot of network bandwidth. Potentially, in conferences, we actually send less, because if you do PowerPoint sharing or some whiteboarding, the video moves up to the top and becomes very small squares. It does not send much information there, because it's low resolution. So sometimes conferences use less video, but potentially you can run up to a high number. So luckily, if you want to model the network, Microsoft has delivered a bandwidth, capacity, or calculator tool. Has any one of you used that tool yet? Few people. It's very handy, because how would you else model the network? So let's see how much time. I will try to do a quick demo. So essentially, it's also an SQL-based tool, an Excel-based tool. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. So it has multiple tabs, and it says start here. So then you can follow this flow and try to find out whatever you have to do to make these calculations. I usually go first to the Persona tab, because this tab I'm going to configure whatever my users' functionalities are going to be, both in my central sites and my remote sites. So for example, currently, if I zoom in a little bit, so we have the usage models, and these usage models are very important because Microsoft uses these usage models to use them in their capacity calculations, also for servers and stuff like that. So these are things Microsoft uses all the time. So you can change it, but it's kind of hard to know where you have to change it to. So I'll always use these numbers. Of course, we have to configure persona definitions. So these persona definitions, you can have a long list of persona definitions. You can model, for example, the desktop information workers. They use Lync 2013, and they use Medium for everything here. But for example, the small branch information workers, they use 2010, and they don't use desktop sharing, for example. You can model around these profiles. So based on these profiles, you're going to tag them to network sites. So for example, we have here central sites and branch sites, because in Lync, we have the concept of central and branch. So we have 2 central sites and a few branch sites, which we connect to the profiles. So we have to say, we have the option to combine 3 profiles to a site. So this makes it a little bit flexible for you to discuss or model for the network. Then you obviously have to say What is the one link speed? What is the available bandwidth for that specific site or one link? And then based on that, you get, where is it? Graphical results, for example. Then you see, for example, TUSCON or leads. We immediately see that leads, there's a big problem. We don't have enough bandwidth available to support all those users and those capabilities. So we know we have to do something for leads. Either we scale down on functionality, or we implement a server there, or we have to do connection to PSTN, for example, but you can model based on this tool. So deployments. All of you have done Lync server deployments? Well, first there were some prerequisites missing. Luckily, TechEd has changed a little bit, but .NET Framework 3.5, there's still an issue if you want to install the prerequisites on a server that's not internet connected. Then you get this error saying, okay, we have a problem, we cannot install it. So there is a workaround. You run this command and you specify the server DVD, and then you can install it later. It took me some time to find this explanation. So I have also a prerequisites file, which allows you to install all these prerequisites in one go. Anyone run into this problem? Yeah. It's kind of annoying. So Office Web Apps. I'm returning to Office Web Apps because deployment. Also some prerequisites were missing. I had to add Windows feature, .NET Framework, and the core. I'm not sure if it's fixed right now on the prerequisites. Because we had ASP.NET errors and it was not working. But adding these features, it fixed the solution. It fixed it. If you deploy Office Web App Server, it's kind of strange how it handles certificates, how it couples certificates. It doesn't use thumbprint or anything like that. It just uses friendly name, and that's the first time I ran into that. It's kind of confusing. If you forget it, it doesn't work. Publishing. If you publish it via TMG, and I have another topic about reverse proxies, you have to unselect these values, otherwise it doesn't work. So what happens if you don't have the Office Web App Server? Because is it a requirement? Do you always want to do PowerPoint sharing? Maybe some users are not using it, maybe some are. So do you need it? Maybe you don't if you don't use PowerPoint sharing, but still. How can you make sure that you don't have the, well, I have it on the other slide, but people still have the PowerPoint upload. Yeah, it's an icon. So if you don't have Office Web Apps, it's still there. People push it, they upload, and it fails. So how can you make sure it goes away? Then you disable data collaboration, but then you also break PowerPoint, whiteboards and polls, unfortunately. So this is the experience. You still have the PowerPoint sharing available if you don't have any Office Web App Server. And this is the thing the users will see. So not so nice error message. And this is how it works. Exchange, I'm going to skip a little bit, and I'm going to sizing, because I think sizing is quite important. The way Exchange 2013 works is completely different than 2010. We don't have a separate server anymore. So servers, you can scale in 2010. You just put in extra servers and you scale So this is not possible anymore in 2013. So really is attached to the mailbox server. And that means still has a limit. It has a limit of 100 simultaneous calls. So that means you have to be aware that all the users you put on a mailbox server you cannot exceed 100 calls for So you might have to put in multiple mailbox servers. I think that's kind of important. So this is how actually works. So for everything, the CAS is proxying to the mailbox server. But for we have a router, which will redirect to the server. So it's a little bit different compared to all the other protocols. So this is essentially a very important topic I want to talk about, certificate warnings. So whoever deployed OCS, Lync, and did it maybe a little bit wrong, and had certificate pop-ups. So in the beginning, everyone probably has that same problem. But if you do it correctly, you still have certificate warnings in Lync 2030. That's kind of annoying. You're into that? And Microsoft is kind of ignoring this, but everyone is running into that problem. Depends on your organization. But this is the problem. We have a pool, and we have a SIP domain. Essentially, they don't match, and then you get a certificate warning. So I'm going to do a demo. Excuse me? Yes. 2, actually. So I think... Oh. Fiddler. Going to remove all messages. Okay, this. So I'm going to sign out. I'm going to sign in. So we have a certificate pop-up, although I did everything correctly. And why that is, we can see in Fiddler. Because what we do, we connect Lync Discover internal. Okay, we didn't deploy it internally, so we use Lync Discover internal. So we know these are the ways to connect. So we connect to the web services, and we get the result. So, and the result is very important here. I cannot zoom in my desktop here. But essentially, what it's saying is my internal access is an internal domain, because it's not our SIP domain. Because of this, the Lync client tries to connect to that FQDN. Because the way it currently works is we cross domains, and it's not allowed, because then we will have certificate pop-ups. So the reason why we have certificate pop-ups is the way Lync Discover works and whatever is returned from the server. So if I do, because I'm going to start a new capture session. So if I cancel out this box, I essentially say, I don't want to cross that trust border. So it doesn't connect via that server, so it goes through the other steps in the process. Then you do the normal Lync 2010. But still, you get this pop-up all the time. So you see that we will have a query for SIP internal, SIP And essentially, it connects to our SBA because this information is in Fiddler. Well, no, not in Fiddler. The Lync server will redirect me, and I have it open here, I think. So whatever happens is we connect to the Lync server, and it redirects us to the SBA. That's why it connects to our SBA. So, but how do you solve that? Because this is kind of annoying. So how to solve it on the server side? I must say it's not an easy one, because you can only do this if you have the following. So you don't, no internal Lync mobile clients. That means no clients connected to your internal network, because then you need Lync Discover internal and Lync Discover. For example, if you have Lync 2013 frontend server standard edition, it's very hard to solve that problem. If you have a single SIP domain, no, it says enterprise. If you have enterprise edition, you can do it, but you have to do it upfront before you create a pool. If you have a single SIP domain, it will work. If you have multiple SIP domains, you will run into problems. The internal web services have to be configured correctly, and the pool name has to be configured in a specific way. So what essentially you have to do is, you have the SIP domain contoso.com. You will have to create a pool name, pool.contoso.com. So you have to do it up front. And your web services also have to be contoso.com. If all of these are correct, you will not run into the issue, because you will not run cross-trust borders. It's kind of annoying, right? It's a crappy workaround, but it works. No, essentially, but apparently Microsoft didn't run into these issues, because most of their tab accounts use the same domain, AD domain name as their SIP domain. But most of our customers don't have that, so you run always into these issues. So if you don't want to do it on the server side, you can do it on the client side. It's a little bit more ugly, because you have to touch every client. So whatever you can do is trust model data key. This key is created to bypass the certificate warnings. So if you click on the certificate, you say, I trust it, connect, it will save it in these keys. So if you are okay that users will connect that way and will just have to click once on the certificate warning, if you're okay with that, that's also fine, but still, it's still ugly. So there is an alternative way. We have bootstrap policies, which essentially are also GPO policies, which you can say, we have the trusted domain list here. This is essentially trust model data key. Or you say, we specify the server to connect to. If we specify the server to connect to, then we do manual configuration style. It does not pop up certificate issues. But still, you have to configure this. I've been told that it will be fixed in some cumulative update. I don't know which one. I hope it will be fixed soon. But at this time, no real fix. Any questions? Okay, so Skype Federation. Who does Skype Federation? Has been available since the beginning of June. Did you have any issues deploying it? No. We kind of did. So there is a provisioning guide, but we had to do several steps extra to enable it. So for signaling, so it means we have to update CyberTrust certificates, which you probably did, but not every customer has done that. So you have to update these certificates, otherwise Skype Federation will not work. It's not specified in the guide, so you might forget to do that. And also for media, if you remember MSN connection, Windows Live, you had to do encryption level support encryption. So it means we support encryption. Whenever there is encryption between link lines, we use encryption. When it's not supported, we just don't use encryption on the media level. We had to do that for several customers. If you had previously connected to Windows Live, this was probably already okay. But still, the guide does not mention any of these. Reverse proxy, that's one of the fantastic topics. So reverse proxy, what do we all use? TMG? Probably, no? Okay, but still, Microsoft proxy, TMG. What's the problem with TMG? It's not available anymore, you cannot buy it. Essentially, so the roadmap says end of life, but it's supported until 2016. So if your customers have TMG, it's still fine. You can absolutely use it. So what's the other reverse proxy from Microsoft? UAG. So we're going to use UAG, right? No, it does not support mobility. So we're not going to use UAG either. So what else? There is some component in IIS that allows you to rewrite some rules. There is official support for IIS ARR address rewriting. So if you want to have a low-cost solution, this is the way to go. I'm not sure how well it scales, but you can use this instead of using TMG. You can even install it on your Edge server probably. And then the other solution is to use hardware load balancers. If you have a hardware load balancer, just use it for reverse proxy as well. So we have a fully supported list of all reverse hardware load balancers. And additionally, Camp has announced some Edge security pack, which you can also use for reverse proxy. So next thing, migration. So I have some interesting stuff to say there. SQL support. So someone mentioned we still have SQL support for clustering when we are in migration scenarios. Yes, that's right. I don't really like that statement, but it says you can continue to use the existing SQL cluster. However, if you want to do that, it's kind of cumbersome. It needs to be a distinct computer running Microsoft SQL Server if you want to install a new Lync 2013 pool. So you will see Topology Builder will say an error when you try to use the same cluster. So you're able to use it, but Topology Builder does not allow you to do that. So chicken and egg problem, right? It's kind of also annoying. So I had people moving all users to standard edition and then decommissioning the OCS or the Lync environment and then moving it all back to the cluster. Maybe you can also do, because an instance is not sufficient. It needs to be a real different FQDN. So maybe you can do another virtual SQL server on the cluster, but still, you have to think about this. A little bit annoying. Real migration. So what is the supported way of doing migration in Lync 2013 from 2010 or R2? Essentially, install a new pool, beside it, director, yeah, probably not, and Edge. So that's the supported way. But what is the consequence of doing this? Do we need anything extra? Yes, we need 3 extra public IP addresses. We need new certificates. I don't really like that. Do you like that? Because it's very temporary. So what we actually do, we essentially rip and replace the Lync 2010 Edge by a Lync 2013 Edge. You don't need to buy extra certificates. You don't need to have extra IP addresses. You just use the same configuration. And for Lync 2010 migrations, this works flawlessly. We have done it several times. It works very good. So this is essentially a very economic migration considering Lync Edge. So one important thing is it does not work for OCS 2007 R2. Because OCS 2007 R2 clients need an OCS Edge for some functionality. So only for 2010 migrations. But something you can think about. Makes life a little bit easier. SBAs.
Before that, why don't we do it the other way around? Why don't we use the edge for 2010 with the 2013 pool, and then in the end we just replace the edge?
Well, that's the same principle, but yeah, you can do that as well. But
Less impact on the migration, because if you migrate the edge first, sometimes problems may appear, and it looks like it's from the new installation.
well, we didn't have any problems, but you can do that route as well. The only thing is, if you do it this way or your way, you still have a little bit of downtime, but still, it's not so much, few hours. And in this way, you don't have any downtime, but still something to think about. So SBA, if you look at all the documentation about support, it says Lync 2013 SBA is not supported on Lync 2010 pool. What does that really mean? Does it mean we cannot use it for voice routing? Yes, we can use it for voice routing. We cannot attach it. So an SBA 2013, we cannot attach it to a 2010 pool. So you require a 2013 pool to attach it to, but you can still route your voice through that SBA. It's kind of important to know. But usually we do the SBA migration last, but you can do it earlier as well. And SBA migration, you probably have to do new firmware on the SBA. You have to deploy new system software with the USB key, usually. So you have to rebuild that system. You will have some downtime. So the only thing not supported is if you have R2 and your users are hosted on R2, they will not be able to use the SBA. So for R2, still some problems there. So this is one interesting thing we found when deploying SBAs 2013. We had an error. It said, gateway peer inbound call is not found in topology document or does not depend on this mediation server. This didn't exist in 2010. In 2010, you could send SIP requests to any mediation server from anywhere. It didn't really matter from where it came. This is not possible anymore in 2013. In 2013, you need to have a trunk configured or your server will not accept SIP messages from that peer. I thought it was interesting to know. Response groups. That's a very interesting one. Who did migration of response groups? Yeah, it's kind of a special process. So it's not like you do a migration from R2 to Lync 2010. If you do a migration from 2010 or to 2013, the process is actually, it copies response group to a 2013 server, and essentially the response group still exists on a 2010 server. So you will see, for example, GNG team on different servers. So there's a 2010 server and a 2013 server. They exist on both servers. But be very careful. If you change anything or delete anything on the 2010 for the response groups, they will stop working. That's kind of, if you do the mistake of deleting them on the 2010, they don't work anymore.
I did this, and when I was decommissioning the 2010, I deleted the response group, and therefore I destroyed them in 2013. So the correct process is it just to leave them on the 2010 and decommission the machine?
Yeah, I think TechEd says decommission them when you decommission the server. I think it's decommissioned because of the process when you decommission the server. So you run into that problem.
Yeah, I have to.
Yeah.
I took a backup.
Yeah, if you have a backup, you can restore them. Yeah, so always take a backup of your response configuration. But this is very important, so don't forget this. It can break a lot of things. And even if you connect via the control panel, it must connect to the SQL server from the control panel, or you will not be able to see the response group configuration. Not sure why that is. I'm going to skip the R2 slide, because I think I said most of it. Other migration issues we encountered was, for example, of Outlook web app. If you want to point it to 2013, there is an error if your users are hosted on an SBA. So this was the error we had. Something about routing, not sure. Where is it? Cannot process routing. So what do you have to do to solve that? Essentially, what is Outlook web app doing? It's a client. It's a client connecting to Lync. What do we have to do to servers and clients? We have to update. So we have to update Outlook web app, all the components that integrate with Lync. So don't forget to do that. Yeah, we had some client version filter issues, and TechEd does not say to move Exchange UM contacts or move the CAC server. Still. Now, this is the last piece, troubleshooting. So troubleshooting, I assume everyone uses OCS Logger or has used that. It comes in the resource kit in 2010. On 2013, it's a different download. It's called debugging tools. So it's no longer in the resource kit. We have some additional tools, remote connectivity analyzer, and a new tool, Lync connectivity. Microsoft Lync connectivity analyzer, which essentially mimics whatever the mobile clients do. So they check if the configuration is correct for Lync mobile clients. Then sometimes I also use these tools to troubleshoot external connection issues from a fellow MVP of me, Curtis Johnston. I encourage you to download the tool. So centralized logging. Who has used centralized logging before? Or who knows it? So not so many people. So I think it's kind of interesting to add it to the slides. This is the last piece, so I'll check timing, 8 minutes. So centralized logging, what is it? It's a centralized, it's essentially saying centralized logging. We centralize all the logs from all servers. So the problem is, if you have a large pool, which pool are you going to run OCS Logger on? So you first have to find out which server the user is connected to, or the preferred server. Then you have to start it there. Potentially, you have to troubleshoot other users as well, and then you have to run OCS Logger on all those front-end servers. Kind of troublesome. So centralized logging makes sure that you start logging once, it logs all your servers, you have your functionality, you do your tests, you stop it, and you get all the logs. Essentially, that's what it is. So we have a controller and an agent. So all the agents, so all the servers have agents. So when we start logging, it will connect to all the servers to start those agents and start logging the scenario you want to log to. So, and essentially, the way we use it, because if you use OCS Logger, who knows all of the options in the list? Probably no one. I did the master training. I don't know every of those options. So even for me, it's like, I don't know everything. So the thing is, we now use scenario-based logging. So for example, IAM and presence, it will activate all the required components to do logging for IAM and presence. For response groups, you see we have a whole list of scenarios here. So it makes it much more easy for a user to enable logging and to do the correct things. So for example, we have incoming and outgoing call. Which component will be activated? You can find it out via PowerShell. So mediation server, S4, SIP stack, translation, outbound routing, inbound, and user services, info level. So that's everything you need from a point of view for troubleshooting. So I'm going to do a small demo, although I have to wait too long to finish the demo, so I have a local copy. So essentially what we do, for example, I want to enable IAM and presence scenario. So if you look at the OCS Logger, we see the complete list we don't really have a clue what to enable or what to disable. So this is very easy. We just say start logging. Scenario, I am a presence. We can specify a pool if you want to. You don't have to. It will connect to all servers. So now it is trying to connect to all servers, also the Edge server. So in our environment, we don't have a big pool. We only have a standard edition and an Edge server, so it will reach out to these servers. So this can sometimes take a little bit of time. So I already have an output. So for example, this search result, I see it's going back. So now I can do a small test. So I have an incoming. So, and now I can stop the logging. So stopping the logging is not sufficient, so we still need to search for our results. So now we're going to stop, and then the last command we are going to run is this one, but this one takes a little bit too long. We cannot wait for it. So I already have a file. So the search result I did a little bit earlier. So if we now get this file in a snooper tool, we should see some results. Unfortunately, I think there's a bug or something. It doesn't format correctly. So this is one I did earlier today. So if you look at the Messages tab, you will see that this is pretty much unreadable. So there's currently a bug that doesn't allow us to go through it like we used to do a snooper tool. So the only thing I can show you is I can open that file. And for example, here we see you have an SBA. I cannot zoom in. Maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger. So this is essentially a log collected from the SBA. I'm going to find our Edge server. So here we see a message coming from our Edge server. So you see the log actually combines all the information into one file. And you should be able to do that via the snooper tool. Unfortunately, now it doesn't work correctly. I hope this will be fixed soon.
Is that the language?
Well, I changed it and it didn't work for me. So I still have to find out what that is. So then I will conclude my session. So some resources, so you know everything is recorded, so go and re-look at all the sessions. Don't forget to fill in your evaluations, because you can win a nice Windows Phone. And one slide about my community. I am active in the Belgium community, and we have a pro Lync community, which essentially does also Office 365 and Exchange. So we post a lot of information in there, and a lot of the information you saw in this session comes from our website, essentially. So I encourage you to look it up, and then this is me thanking you for your attention. Hope to see you again soon.